Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today we're taking a look at another one of Bandai's 30-minute missions, Mecha model kit. And once again, this is a Spinatio type, and we've seen multiple of these before. We've seen a Samurai, a Ninja, the Army type, and now this one right here is the Knight type. As usual, this video right here would not have been possible without those absolutely awesome people over at HobbyLink Japan, so link down there in the description. So when it comes to the build of this kit, this is exactly the same Spinatio for the most part. Besides 3 runners that make this into the Knight type, we've seen this before in multiple colors, time and time again. So before we actually get into what makes this kit the Knight type, this is what the internal aspect of the Spinatio looks like, as in the standard Spinatio in these brand new colors. So the new colors are a gunmetal frame, navy blue, and almost bluish sort of silver, and we do have a clear part in the face, which is also in a blue. I will also mention that I think this may just be the first ever 30-minute missions kit that is made out of metallic injection plastic. Again, this might be for some people, may not be for others, but that right there is what it looks like. Now let's get it converted into the Knight type. So popping on the parts that make this into the Knight version, first off, we've got this little bit for in the back of the head, the helmet front section, down on the torso, we've got that breastplate. Around back, we've got this rear attachment point that actually changes the 3 holes that we had into the 1 hole. Down to waist, we've got some waist adapters. Some front skirting armor pops on like so. A bit of a butt flap. Get in there. Shoulder armor segments. We got some gauntlets for on the back of the arms. A pair of side skirts, they pop on just like so. And finally then we've got some shin armor, which just attaches on via those little bits. And there we go. That is finished. So now jumping into that full 360-degree spin, and I have to say, I think this might have knocked the Samurai off the #1 spot for my #1 Spinatio, which is kind of difficult. The Spinatio so far has released some of the coolest 30-minute missions to date. The Samurai and the Army type being huge favorites of mine. Now this might have jumped to the top. Maybe. So just in case you're curious about the backstory of this particular mecha right here, I'm going to read it out straight from the manual. So what it says is, this is a Spinatio with special specifications that is equipped with enhanced armament specialized for short to medium range combat. It is used for a wide range of operations such as surprise attacks against enemy territory and base defense. The standard Knight sword is a physical blade with the same hardness as the unit's exterior armor. Its shape is different from the Sengoku sword. It has edges on both sides, and the blade has a longer and sharper design. So as for a bit of a size comparison, this is the same scale as Gunpla, which is 1/44th scale. So there it is beside a high-grade version of the Granddaddy, that is the Beyond Global, and there it is side by side with the Burning Gundam. So it is in around the same size as a Gundam kit. When it comes to high-grade Gunpla, the gold standard for Knight-style mecha is most definitely Iron-Blooded Orphans. So there it is side by side with the high-grade IBO Hajiroboshi, and there it is side by side with the Helm Vig Reinkar. So jumping into the accessories, and this is what we get in here. So it's a very simple loadout: a sword, a shield, 3 alternate hands, that's a pair of widespread, 1 extended right hand, as well as a couple of optional bits. So when it comes to the hands in here, this is exactly the same as we've seen with every Spinatio so far. That is the standard pair of holding hands that we're seeing right here, as well as a pair of widespread open hands. But as you can see on that one right there, there is no backs for the alternate hands, so you do need to switch out the backs when you're switching out hands. And lastly then we have a right hand at an extended angle, which is always awesome for some slashing poses. This is the one I'm going to go with, seeing as this kit comes with a sword. Like I mentioned, you do have to swap the backs from hand to hand as you change them, which isn't really all that big of a deal. It can be a little bit of a time sink at times, but hey, these kits are nice and cheap. So when it comes to the weapons in here, should I say weapon, what we get is the sword. Now straight away this is pretty plain, it's just 1 piece, and there is a lot of 30-minute missions aspects to it that may put some people off. The blade itself is fairly average enough, but it's when we get down to the hilt there. In usual 30-minute mission style, this has lots of plugs and aspects like that, 3mm holes and a 3mm peg sticking out of it. And as you can see, this is attached onto an action base into another hole there. This definitely makes it look very model kit as opposed to large-scale mecha. So getting this into the hand is simple enough. It just slots on in the usual sort of 30-minute missions or high-grade kind of way. So I'm finally getting this into the hand and into a few poses. I did realize that the 30-minute missions aspects to this sword aren't as obvious when it's being held onto, especially if you keep that peg segment around to the back. This does look pretty damn cool, and actually throwing it into this pose right here really does show that the color choice here was completely on purpose. This is not coincidental. This is literally the color scheme of Artorias from Dark Souls. If the sword was a little bit more badass, a little bit broader, it would definitely be right there, and you're going to have to make your own little cape to go with it. But there's potential. So next up in here, we've got the shield. This is exactly the same as what we would have seen with the sword. Same color, same level of detail, same metallic injection plastic. Round front, as you can see, we've got two little 3mm ports there for if you want to add on some stuff. And flipping around to the back, we've got a handle for holding onto, as well as a peg, and one slot right there, which the stand is stuck into. So when it comes to the attaching of the shield, there is two ways to do this, probably multitude, but to get it onto the arm, there's two particular ways. First off, you can pop off this handle that is attached around back, and then you've got yourself a peg. This can plug into the back of the forearm like so in a very kind of Gundam shield kind of way. So it can be used hands-free, and therefore the hand is free. Or the other way is to grab that handle that we had before, stick it into the inside of the shield. You will need to change the hands to a holding hand to hold on to this, and that's exactly what we're doing here. This can pop into the hand like so it can be held pointing this way like this, or you can spin it around into this more defensive looking position. Bring this up to the body of this particular mecha like so, and this looks incredibly good. So there's a couple of poses of what it will look like with both the sword and the shield, and this is a really cool idea for a mecha. This almost does look a little bit more like a dude rather than a mech though, but it's pretty cool. So there's also some other really cool aspects to it. For example, there's a little bit of a slot in the handle in which you can actually slot the sword down into for storage, so you can store the sword in the shield. It is also worth noting that this can still be held in the hand while this sword is attached in here. Only this way around, by the way. If you actually want to hold the shield the other way around, you actually have to flip the sword around and attach it into the inside of the shield, using the peg in it. Both of these pieces of equipment can be actually stored on the unit, not in the hand, and that does involve removing the handle. This can then attach into any 3mm hole on this unit. The one suggested in the manual and the one that I'm using right here is the one in the back. It attaches in just like so, looks pretty good. There is the gap between it and its back, it's not so bad, and there's an example of it from the front, looking pretty badass. So that is it for all the accessories that's inside of the box, but that is by no means the limitation to this kit. As always with 30-minute missions, you can grab a bunch of other options kits or other 30-minute missions kits and slap them onto this. Like I've mentioned so many times before, these are like Mecha Lego or Mecha Model Kit Lego. This is a whole bunch of 3mm ports all over the place. We've got C-clips and everything. Like we saw earlier on when the armor wasn't attached, there's a bunch even underneath that. I do have a bunch of kits to use, but sadly at the moment they are in storage and I don't have them available for this video right here. Hopefully that will be ending very soon, but in the interim, don't have them. So when it comes to the articulation, first off, the build strength on this is great. These don't really loosen up all that much. If they do, you can just like kind of squeeze together the various aspects like the upper legs and whatnot, and you'll tighten it right back up again. But as they stand so far, these have all been rock solid, awesome kits. So first off, throwing this into the usual test pose to test all of the articulation at once, and I think when it comes to mecha model kits, this might be one of the greatest poses around, and that goes for all of the Spinatios. It's just the perfect mix of very simple joints with a lot of range of motion, so it's just so much fun to pose and you can pretty much pull off everything. I find the only real issue with posing this sometimes is the usual 30-minute missions issue, and that's that the joints in the shoulders and the hips, because there are two parts together that move in conjunction with each other, can kind of start to separate over time and you will have to squeeze them back together. But besides that, this thing is rock solid and can pull off some of the most fun poses. Bandai really knew what they were doing when they're making a Knight version of this, especially in Artorias colors. That is so cool. Honestly, I could spend the entire day just putting this thing into poses. I actually feel this has dethroned both the samurai and the army version for the best Spinatio. This is so cool. Now I want more. Oh, I'll also mention that we do have a opening visor in the front. It's a very janky little gimmick, but you can actually slide it up so you can see some of the clear part inside of it and slide it back down again. It is a little bit hard to do. You're actually better off just kind of taking it off and popping it back on again in the position you want, but it's pretty cool that you can do that. So yeah, that's it for the review, and when it comes to this Spinatio, it's exactly the same as the other ones, just as awesome, but now we've got a cool Knight aesthetic. I actually thought some of the big bulky armor, especially like the side skirting armor, might get in the way of some of the poses of this. Not a chance. Would it have been nice to see some more weapons? Definitely, but there's tons and tons of knight style and melee style weapons out there. Even a cool shield set that you can actually get for using with 30-minute missions that just kick ass. So as a base, this is phenomenal. This is so cool. This may just be one of, if not my favorite 30-minute missions yet. And that's saying a lot. Anyway, once again, if you do want one of your own, link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Mecha Model Kit reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, this video and every video would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches my videos. And special thanks to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon and on the channel members, including Caleb Engelhart, Global Frequency Studios, Go Little Rockstar, Gunpla UK Limited, Joe, Kill Me Inc., Lawrence Seahack, RG59061, and Van Fawn.